Hello and welcome to another video. This is Jennifer. In today's video, I wanted to show you how you can add the look of dimension to plain, simple die cuts to really bring them to life. I've done this in the past and I'll link to another video at the end of this one, but I really think it's one of those techniques that really can make your die cuts pop. So on all of these poppies here, I just use regular cardstock, but I use the same markers on all of them to add the look of dimension. Now I know Copic markers are overwhelming for some people. I'm going to be using Copic markers in a very simple way today, but you could do this with colored pencils or other markers if you have those instead. Let's get started with our die cutting. I'm using this large Iceland poppy from Poppy Stamps. Poppy Stamps is in collaboration with Memory Box, who makes the best dies out there, the most detailed, intricate dies that create amazing pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out from some cardstock scraps I have, and I will list below in my YouTube description and over on my blog which cardstocks I use because the colors I use today are just beautiful. Now I'm going to run this through my die cut machine, but I only need really the petals, so I'm trying to conserve some of this cardstock. I only need the flower petals themselves. Now whenever I do die cutting for a technique like I'm doing today, I go ahead and die cut an extra batch of pieces in case when I'm doing it I mess up the first batch. I have the others ready to go, and it keeps me from getting frustrated when I mess things up. So I'm going to go ahead and run through another batch of the petals, and if it turns out that all the petals turn out okay, I have enough to make 2 cards. So as of right now, we have all these pieces of plain red die cuts, and we could assemble them, but they'd be pretty plain and not really have much dimension to them. So I wanted to show you how you could use Copic markers or whatever markers or pencils you have to add shading to whatever color cardstock you have. You don't need a lot of colors. All you need are some grays. I recommend C1, C3, C5, and the 0 blending pen. I have C00 in there, but I don't use it as much. With these gray markers, you can add shading to any color cardstock, and I'll show you some examples today. So I'm taking a piece of sticky tape, and I'm just putting the sticky side up just to hold my die cuts in place as I add color to them so they don't move around. Now I'm using the C3, which is a light gray, and I'm just adding some coloring to the areas where I would imagine these pieces would have the most shading, the more darkness to them. Now you'll notice I kept the little picture of the poppy die cut from the packaging, and I'm keeping that stored with my die so that I know kind of how this is assembled. Another thing I like to do is take a super light gray pen and outline right up against the edge of my die cut, and that really makes a big difference in giving it the look of dimension. So I just traced around the die cut, and that ended up putting a little bit of color just on the outside edge alone. Now this is the trick. After I've done those colors, it looks kind of streaky. I go in with my 0 blender pen, which just is used to kind of blend colors together and kind of soften the look of the colors. It looks a little wet right now, but when that dries, you'll get nice blending of that color. So it looks like that color is part of the paper, not just added on top. So I'll do another one here, and notice that there are some like embossed lines or embossed veins that this die gives, and I'm kind of following those veins with my marker. So I added a little bit of the gray first, and now I'm going in with a lighter gray and adding over top of that. And again, I will trace around the outside of the die cut, which puts just a little bit of that gray on the outside edge of the die cut piece, which really makes a big difference when you glue this onto your card. And if you need to soften it up at the end, you can go over the whole piece with your Copic colorless blender one more time. Now look at the big difference between what it was like before and after adding that little bit of gray. Now let me do a few on this pink too, just to show you that the gray can work on pretty much any color that you have. So I'm going to do the exact same thing here on pink using the same markers. Now it would look better if I went in with pink markers and added the shading with the pink markers on the pink paper and the red markers on the red paper, but if you don't have the money to invest in all the different colors, you could do a lot with just the gray alone. So I did the exact same thing here, added the C1, C3, and then ended with the Copic colorless blender, and you can add that look of dimension to the pink. And you could even do it to the yellow. Now this is a cool gray color I'm putting on this warm yellow cardstock, but it still works okay. It probably would be better to use some yellows or some soft browns on here, but I wanted to show you that it works just fine. So even if you don't want to invest in a bunch of colors, you can use the grays for a lot of shading and just to add the look of dimension. This works with a lot of different dies that you have out there, or you can even put just a soft shadow around a stamped image to give that look of dimension. I really enjoy die cutting, and this is a great way to give more life to it. Okay, to assemble the petals, I cut like a little platform here that I'm going to glue all my petals on, and I'm going to follow the guide of the picture. If you don't have the picture from the packaging, you can just do a Google search on the product name and find some example pictures. Now I'm gluing the backmost petals down first, and I'm just gluing it flat onto that little platform piece that I created. And I'm just using a little bit of my tape runner, my stamp runner here, and that will allow me to kind of move them if I need to, and we'll put some strong adhesive behind it later on once we have everything where we want it. Now for the next petals, the ones that are kind of in front, I'm going to use a little bit of foam tape on the back of those so that we have some actual dimension here. You could glue these all flat down on top of each other and still have that look of dimension thanks to the markers that we've added to this. But I thought I'd go ahead and add a little bit more with the foam tape. So after I've put these on, we have the little petal to put in front, and then we can do the center of our flower too. Now for the center of our flower, I just die cut from white cardstock. This is another trick that I like to use for die cutting. I die cut all the pieces from white cardstock, and then I add some color to them with my markers. I'm using some clean color real brush pens here. Absolutely any coloring would work here. I just wanted to add some quick coloring to it. Then for this centerpiece, I did it in brown, and now I'm actually going in with my C3 gray Copic marker to add a little bit of shading to it. So you can put that gray on top of any colors that you may have. I'm again using my stamp runner to put a little bit of adhesive on the back of these little pieces and tuck them into our flower. And again, I'm not worried about how well I'm gluing these down because I'm going to add some strong adhesive later on. I think it's easier just to use a little adhesive as you assemble so that you can move it if need be. And here's another one that I created earlier with black in the center, just a variation. Now for the stems, they were white that I die cut originally, and then I just added some green markers on top of that just to quickly color them. You could just do it from green cardstock and add gray marker shading if you wanted to. Now for the pink one, I didn't put foam tape in here. I wanted you to see what it was like to just glue all the pieces flat. This is a little more mail friendly, and I thought it'd go through the mail a little bit better. Now, thanks to the marker that we used to add the dimension, it does have that look of shading. It's a little more realistic looking. And now on this one, I'm going to go in and add even more shading. Because I'm not using any foam tape, I really want to make sure we have some dimension to it. So after you've assembled your die cut, you can add more shading. So think about all the different shape dies that you have, the balloons, the butterflies, anything you have that you normally cut from plain cardstock, you can now give it a little bit of life with some gray markers. And by the way, I've done the same technique many times with a handful of gray colored pencils and a white colored pencil, which you can buy individually at craft stores, and it works really well also. So if you don't have the Copics, you can try that. Okay, so now I need to put the rest of the card together. I want to keep it very basic. I'm going to keep the background pretty simple with white on white. I die cut a white rectangle with faux cross stitch around the edge. This is a memory box die set that I think is just fantastic. There's so many in it. And then I die cut some sentiments using this hello die from this memory box die set. Now I'm going to glue the stem into the hello die cut just so that it kind of ties everything together. So the sentiment isn't kind of just floating there. It's actually part of the card design with the flower. Putting that down with a little bit of adhesive, and then also the top of the flower. And again, we'll add some stronger adhesive later on. I wanted this to be raised, and I don't like using foam tape on the back of big pieces because it gets crushed in the mail. So I'm cutting a piece of white craft foam that has a little dimension to it that's slightly smaller than this big white piece. And I'm going to go ahead and glue that on the back and then glue this onto our card. And that gives us nice, even raised dimension that will go through the mail nicely. Now it's time to make sure those die cut pieces stay put. So I'm taking Ranger Multi-Matte Medium and squirting it into the tiny nooks and crannies of our die cut flower here. Now I put on the Quilt Creations bottle top, which has this fine tip nozzle on top of my Ranger Multi-Medium bottle. And this allows for fine precision and for squirting this adhesive into these tiny little areas. Now when that dries, that sucker won't fall apart, so you don't have to worry about it going through the mail. I really like that adhesive with that tip. Now before we go on to our final touches, I wanted to show you this gold die cut hello. This is actually gold glitter paper from Tim Holtz, surprisingly. It's a great paper because it's nice and subtle, but a little bit of interest, and it comes in gold and silver together in one package. And it is adhesive backed, which is great for die cutting. So I did that for the yellow card. I thought that yellow hello die cut would be perfect for the yellow flower. Now that we've put all of our cards together, let's add some finishing touches. On the Hello die cut, I wanted to add a thin layer of glossy accents to give it some dimension. So I have my glossy accents bottle with a Scrap Perfect nozzle on top that is a fine precision also, and it is no clog. So I'll link to that product also. And then for the flowers, I decided to use some Wink of Stella shimmer just to add a little bit of interest to that too. So there you have how you can take plain simple die cuts and give them a whole new life by adding a little bit of dimension with some gray markers. Now, I did mention that I've done this technique in the past in a very similar design. I was inspired by myself for these cards, and I will link to that video here also. This is a peek at what that card looks like. It's really fun, a great way to get more from your die cuts. And also, this video is part of a blog hop celebrating Kathy Racoosin's daily marker 30-day challenge, where it encourages you to color a little bit every day. And I will link to her blog and her YouTube channel so you can follow along. There's lots of prizes and discount codes. Really exciting month. Okay, so if you're interested in the things I talk about in this video, I always link to multiple sources in my YouTube description below. Or you can head over to my blog at jennifermcguireinc.com, where I have much, much more. And as always, I appreciate you stopping by and spending some time with me. See you again soon.